Hi everyone, it's Lauren and I have a lovely eclectic book haul for you today, and also I'm going to be doing a little bit of a giveaway, so stay tuned for later on the video for that. But I have a lot of different things. I've got some women's prize long listed books, I've got some Persephone books, I've got some stuff that I picked up on our booktuber meetup bookshop crawl that we did the other weekend as well. The first one I have to show you today is an absolute beauty, and that is The Gloaming by Kirsty Logan. Kirsty Logan wrote The Grace Keepers, which was out a couple of years ago and was very beautiful, and it went around booktube quite a lot. It was a very pretty book, and it was about mermaids and a travelling circus boat, and it was very fantastical and magical. However, it was her debut novel, and for me, I did enjoy it, but it did feel very first novel-y to me, which is a bit of an undefined thing to say, but it felt like she hadn't quite found her footing. So I'm very excited to read her second book. It doesn't mention mermaids in the blurb, which is quite interesting, but it is about people living on a magical island who apparently turn to stone at the end of their lives. It's very vague and very intriguing, so I'm very interested to get to it, but also, I mean, look at this foiling on the cover as well, and it's beautiful on the inside. I mean, I'm a sucker for a pretty book. We know this to be true. And the next three that I have to show you do carry on this theme, and they are the latest 3 additions to the Persephone books collection. Persephone is a bookshop in London, but it's also a publisher, and they publish mostly female authors, but all of their books have been out of print for a number of years, and they're bringing them back to the fore. And it's just so exciting to find new books and new authors that you don't know about. But if you saw my latest upcoming reads video, you'll know that I have given myself a bit of a project to actually read all of my Persephone books rather than just collect them and display them on my shelves, because there are some beautiful words inside these beautiful covers. So these latest 3 just sound so interesting. I'm so excited for them. The first one here is Tory Heaven by Marghanita Lasky, and this, well, it sounds like some kind of dystopian future with a Tory far-right government. Imagine that. We also have Young Anne by Dorothy Whipple. Dorothy Whipple is one of Persephone's most popular authors. I haven't actually read anything by her yet, but I have heard nothing but good things from people who have. And this is a coming-of-age story about a young woman. Young Anne kind of says it on the tin. And the third one I'm most excited about, actually, and that is Despised and Rejected by Rose Alatini. And this is about a gay conscientious objector during World War I and him meeting a woman who he kind of recognises as a lesbian, although she hasn't worked it out yet. And it sounds so interesting and also really trailblazing for the era as well. So I am all about this. Really looking forward to that one. The next one is quite an interesting one, and that is A Place for Us by Fatima Farheen Mirza. Now this is an ARC which is very kindly sent to me by Hogarth Press, and the reason I say that this is interesting is that this title has been picked up by a new imprint by Sarah Jessica Parker, and I will be completely honest, if I had just randomly heard that Sarah Jessica Parker was, you know, publishing books now, I wouldn't have thought, oh great, get me this title, I'm sure it's amazing. But Jen Campbell was doing an event with her and therefore had to read this book for this event, and she really liked it, and that kind of speaks quite highly of this book to me, because it's the kind of thing that you can be a little bit worried about when celebrities start getting involved in the book world. So this is about an Indian Muslim woman who is having a wedding, and it's about all of her family coming together for that day, including her brother who's been estranged from their family for the last 3 years. So it sounds very interesting. Next we have a couple of surprises that I just picked up while I was waiting in Foyles one day and having a browse through some of the staff recommendations. And these 2 books are both Argentinian authors, and this has been translated from the Spanish. And this press I'd not heard of, which is Charco Press, and these were both recommended by the same member of staff. And it's just one of those things where I've seen something that I'd never heard of before. I wanted to read some more South American literature as well, and it just seemed like there were these 2 and they're a pair, and perhaps I should buy both of them. So this first one, Die, My Love by Ariana Harwitz, is about a woman in the French countryside basically having emotions, it sounds like from the blurb, but it is also compared to Sylvia Plath and Clarice Lispector, so this just sounds very interesting. And then Fireflies by Luis Sagasti is, well, it says it's an attempt to explain the history of the world. So these both sound quite vague, to be honest, from reading the blurbs, but I think it's important to get out of your comfort zone a little bit, try some authors you've never heard of before, especially if they're in translation, so I was really pleased to find those 2. And now we have some more books that I picked up during the Booktuber meetup on Saturday. So one of the first places we went to was Gaze the Word at King's Cross, and I've never been to that bookshop before. It's the bookshop that's featured in Pride, the film Pride. I mean, featured in the film makes it sound like that's a fictional account. It's a real story of the gays and lesbians support the miners during the miners' strike in the 80s in the UK. And I'd never been to the actual bookshop, so I was really delighted to go there, and I picked up 3 books. Of course I did. The first one is Circe by Madeline Miller. I absolutely loved her first book, Song of Achilles, which won, I think it won the Women's Prize for Fiction back when it was the Orange Prize, so a number of years ago now. And this is her follow-up, like 5 years later, however long it is. I don't know anything about it in terms of plot, and I want to keep it that way. I know that it's another Greek myth retelling. I know that Jean has read this book and really loved it, and I haven't watched her review of it either because I didn't want to spoil it for myself, and the guy in the shop was just raving about this book, and I had to pick it up, so really excited for that. I also didn't mean to buy this book, but then it was recommended to me by Ollie Bliss, whose channel I will link below, and that is If You Could Be Mine by Sarah Farizan, and this is a YA novel, I believe, about 2 teenage girls who are falling in love in Iran, where homosexuality is illegal, and he just absolutely raved about it. He said it was his favourite book of last year. So that was a done deal. I had to pick it up. And then at the till, I also just had to pick up this because it's upside down, sorry. And that is a Penguin modern classic. And this is an essay by Audre Lorde, which is The Master's Tools Will Never Dismantle the Master's House. Now, I've not read any Audre Lorde before, so this seemed like too good an opportunity to miss, as it's just a tiny little book, a little introduction to her writing. I know she's kind of black, lesbian, feminist, and does lots of essays and poetry. I've heard a lot about her writings, but never read it myself. We then had a stroll down to the London Review bookshop where I picked up this absolutely gorgeous tome. I'm so pleased that I found this actually, and that is The Stolen Bicycle by Wu Minyi, and this is a Chinese, Taiwanese actually, novel which has been translated. It's been recently longlisted for the Man Booker International Prize, which is how I'd heard about it, but apart from that nugget of information, my knowledge of this book is absolutely nothing. But I just thought it was, I'm so sorry, I just thought it was so beautiful. Can you look at it? It's got illustrations on the back as well. There's illustrations throughout the book, and I've been wanting to read some more Chinese literature, so you know, it just happened, everything aligned, and it was there in front of me, and I picked it up and I bought it, and I can't wait to read. I can't wait to find out what the plot is. And finally we get to the Women's Prize for Fiction long list / shortlist for this year. I absolutely love the Women's Prize because I think it normally has a really interesting range of books in there. So I've got one to show you first, which was longlisted but hasn't been shortlisted, unfortunately, and that is The Trick to Time by Kit de Waal, and I'm halfway through reading this. I absolutely loved Kit de Waal's debut novel, My Name is Leon, which came out last year, I want to say. So, you know, there was no question that I was going to pick this up as well. So far, this is about an old woman who makes dolls for a living, and then it's jumping back to her childhood in Ireland and her meeting of who I presume is about to become her husband. And then we have the 6 shortlisted books which were announced on Monday. So we have books that I already own and I've already read, are The Mermaid and Mrs. Hancock by Imogen Hermes Goa, which I really enjoyed. And we also have Home Fire by Camilla Shamsi, which actually is one of my favourite books I've read all year so far, so I'm so pleased that this has been shortlisted. Then the books that I haven't read yet, but I'm really looking forward to getting to, are The Idiot by Elif Batuman, which is a campus novel. It's about a woman at Harvard who's, I think, is feeling like an idiot herself and trying to work out whether she really belongs there. That's what I believe. We also have Sight by Jessie Greengrass, which is about one woman who is going through pregnancy and looking at her own journey into motherhood while also looking back at her mother's death, and this just sounds really, really fascinating. And the 2 I am most looking forward to reading are Sing Unburied Sing by Jesmyn Ward, which, although I've heard amazing things about everyone who's read this is so vague, and I feel like I've confused in my head what it's actually about, because on the back it just says an intimate portrait of a family and an epic tale of hope and struggle. Great, okay, that really tells me a lot. But this has been absolutely everywhere, and despite that very brief and very vague synopsis on the back, I'm really looking forward to reading it. And the same goes for When I Hit You by Meena Kandasamy. This is about a woman going through domestic violence with her husband, and although this isn't strictly autobiographical, I believe the author has looked back on her own life and is using her own experiences for this story, and I watched Jen at Insert Literary Pun here, I shall link her channel down below. I watched her review of this book and she absolutely loved it, and if you enjoy my reviews, I think you'll really like Jen's channel because she's so much more in depth than I am, and she's really great at dissecting through novels and explaining what she likes and what she doesn't like. So that made me really excited for this book. So now that the shortlist for the Women's Prize has been announced, I thought that I would run a giveaway for the books that I already owned. So those three are The Mermaid and Mrs. Hancock by Imogen Hermes Gower, Sight by Jessie Greengrass, and Home Fire by Camilla Shamsi. So if you would like to be in a chance to win one of these books, I will pick 3 people, 1 person to win each book. All you have to do is click the like button on this video and then comment down below just telling me which book you'd like to be considered for, and this will be running for 72 hours, so the end of Wednesday the 2nd of May. I will close the competition and then randomly select 3 people to win the books. So this is open internationally, so it shouldn't matter where you are in the world, and just make sure you're paying attention to social media, I guess, on Thursday the 3rd of May on my Twitter and Instagram when I'll announce the winners. I will be in contact with the winners separately as well, but just in case. So let me know which of these books you're most excited to hear about or excited to read if you haven't already. If you have already read the books, I would love to hear from you which ones you enjoyed the most, especially for the Women's Prize shortlist, because I've read a few of the long list this year, but I haven't read all of them by a long shot. So I always find it interesting going from the long list to the shortlist to the winner and kind of what everybody else's opinions are. So let me know what you think about that, and I will see you in my next video. Bye!